our first winter wonderland show of the year. I hope it's not too blacked out by the likeness of the snow. This is the first snow of the year in Washington, D.C. greater area. It's December 11th, 2023. So I wanted to do a show today with the title topic that you saw. Does Los Angeles hate the Tesla semi despite some of the worst pollution problems anywhere in the world, and for sure in the United States? This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the show, would like suggestions and ideas on investing and trading, please join us on Patreon. So I was, something strange happened with my sort of rapport with it's too cold outside to maintain this. So something very strange happened with my, if you will, Tesla semi rapport. We tend to do a lot of shows on the semi, and obviously today is another one of them. So what happened is that there's a really strange question that came up for me. When I learned that Tesla / Pepsi had decided to do the soda side from the Sacramento area in terms of their facilities, and then they were doing the chip side from Modesto, California, I said to myself, whoa, wait a second. This makes no sense whatsoever. And even though I've probably spent months in Sacramento, a very short period of time in Modesto, let me go through a few detailed points about how the semi is set up in California and why it makes no sense. First, the whole state of California has about a 50 million population out of 300 million for the United States. The second issue is that Greater Los Angeles, as of 5 years ago, the Greater Los Angeles region had 34 million people, making it the number one sort of live destination or market in the United States. New York's number two at 15, 18 million. So the second issue here is that Greater Sacramento has 2 million people. So how much pollution do you think is generated by trucks delivering to people in Sacramento at 2 million versus Los Angeles at called 40 million people? Very different numbers. The second, another data point is LA, or the greater Los Angeles area. I'm trying to get consistent light here. I apologize for the change. But the second issue that pops up is, guess why Los Angeles has some of the worst pollution in the world? Certainly, we've covered in the past that GM / Exxon / Firestone got together and they actually bought up the trolley system that was in Los Angeles in the 20s, and they ripped it out of the ground. So Los Angeles is actually trying to rebuild an electric-driven underground sort of subway system now, and it's a lot more expensive. And so all the when it was the old days, and we had Los Angeles had streetcars, etc., all the development was relative to where the streetcars were, so that you could easily move through the city without driving. That was ripped out of the ground, and therefore development did not develop along corridors that were easily served by electric vehicles, or in this case, trolley cars. So now we got this problem where, yes, GM and those guys sold a ton of buses, tires, and all the cars, etc., that were associated with people having to use a car to get around, and there's no efficient way to do it. So as a result, LA ended up generating huge amounts of pollution from all the vehicles that are out there. But now let's add to it the fact that Los Angeles is one of the largest container ports in the world. And if you add up Long Beach and Los Angeles ports, they probably they're fighting for number one anywhere in the globe for containers brought in out of Asia, loaded from those ships on rail or trucks and then stored, and then all those goods go, where they're going from there. So as a result, both the ships generate huge amounts of pollution while they idle in the port, and you have all the trucks. The train's not as much pollution, but the trucks that grab those inbound containers and move them inland to either storage or directly to customers, all those vehicles are generating huge amounts of pollution, particularly, and they're all semis. So it's been documented how much they produce. And so one of the main reasons the state of California decided to create this program for helping with resources to make the transition to electric powered vehicles or non-heavily polluting vehicles was all this pollution generated from the sources I just described. So on various days, and I may just choose one of our pictures of LA in a heavy smog zone, is that just like in Stuttgart that we talked about before, there's actually a basin. And once the pollution is let off by the trucks and ships and traffic, all of that they're kind of trapped in the basin by the San Gabriel Mountains, so that you in some cases you have to cancel athletic events for kids, etc., because the pollution is so bad. Guess what? In Sacramento, I've been around California for 25 years, and I've never seen a pollution shutdown in Sacramento or Modesto for athletes. But in Los Angeles, it can happen a few times a year, not constantly, but it definitely happens because of all the pollution that's trapped there. So as a result of all this, I kept wondering this weird question: does LA really hate the electric semi? Because as you've noticed, Tesla has a number of them that they're using. Probably half the fleet is right now being used by Tesla to move parts between facilities. So it's good they reduce pollution by doing so, because they're not generating pollution from trucks that are using electricity to move around. Now, when it comes to Pepsi, this is where I feel hate from Los Angeles, I believe, coming at the Tesla Semi. The only Tesla Semi that's permanently based, to my knowledge, in Los Angeles is the one, or perhaps three of them, that are in test at the design facility for Elon in Los Angeles. They have a facility, as you know, that sort of houses SpaceX on one side, and on the other side is where they have design facilities for all of Tesla's vehicles, which facilitates Elon being able to be in the design process, but not necessarily have to go to production facilities in California or in the Bay Area. So we have all this pollution. We have state subsidies for how this will be paid for. So what's up with this? Now, a good answer to this would be, hey, Pepsi has facilities that they can build out at that are doing deliveries, and it works out well for that reason. Definitely good answer, but there is a Rancho Cucamonga facility in Southern California that definitely could have been a spot where they put the electric semi there. That way they could service the Southern California market partially. Now, this show, I'm going to throw out what my answer is, I believe, but part of this show's goal was to suggest that I believe that there's a need to cut the Tesla Pepsi fleet in half for both chips and for drinks, and immediately move those to Southern California. Why? Because the pollution problems of SoCal are 10 times those of the Bay Area. And it makes no sense whatsoever to have any of those trucks in Northern California based on how bad things are in Southern Cal, generated by all vehicles. Now, the other thing I will call for, I have to admit, is that I also really think that as Tesla rolls its real fleet out, and as soon as possible, we should have a semi-built out fleet that's happening at the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach, because those guys are some of the worst polluters anywhere, and the main reason why this whole program was even created. So the question is, what could possible reasons be other than Los Angeles hates the semi? Clearly, it could be other things that I'm sure you guys will fire off on as potentially why this travesty is going on. And I believe that the answer to this is a company called Daimler-Benz. So what happened is that when Tesla announced its semi, Daimler, they have 42% of the global truck market. They're based in Germany. They're US, they have multiple US entities, Detroit Diesel that they own, as well as Freightliner. So they go around the world. When Tesla announced the semi, it totally caught them flat-footed. So Martin Daum, who's the CEO, and the folks at Daimler got really aggressive about, well, how do we slow down Tesla's entry into the truck business? There are a number of ways that they sort of established to execute this. Number one, they established sort of group planning among large customers who use Freightliner in different places so that they could plan out, well, how are the charging facilities going to work, where they're going to be located, what are the standards. That was their first move. Their next move was, I want to say within a year, Daimler had come up with some prototype semi-trucks, which I believe the e-Cascadia is really still a prototype because we don't get to follow it and see it like you can with Tesla's trucks. And so what they did was they created Class 7 and Class 8 trucks and gave free copies to large customers around the world. So you'll notice that Daimler has this thing going where they call it 1 million miles of customer miles have already been done by the Cascadia / other electric vehicles from Daimler. This is true. They were also given those trucks for free as part of a test, and you can easily give them free when you have hundreds, if not thousands, of trucks sitting at those customer facilities. And so there's this weird deal that's been happening where as Tesla presents dates of when they're going to do things, Daimler within a few weeks, of that announcement, will articulate how they're going to be delivering a solution that's Tesla compatible and competitive within a certain period of time. And they've missed all those deadlines because basically for what is needed by customers, their solution doesn't work. But they have the power of already having a relationship with the customer and being able to put the squeeze on those customers to not deal with Tesla in realms where they're have activity. In this case, there's a company called Schneider, which is a trucking company, and Schneider has signed on to take as many as 80 $400,000 per tractor trucks from Daimler to fuel an operation where they're doing work with the Rancho Cucamonga Frito-Lay facility. They're also using those trucks to initiate the process of how electric trucks will enter the port of Los Angeles. And the way that Daimler / Schneider are operating, they've really used their political capital to freeze out the Tesla Semi out of the entire Los Angeles market. So I actually think from a business standpoint, it's pretty smart on the part of Daimler and Schneider to do this. The problem is that if you look at the stats, Daimler their truck has a 220-mile version and a 250-mile version of their vehicles, and that's it. So we have to assume with those mileages that's warm temperatures, no hills, etc. Because if you're moving decent amount of freight, a decent distance, and you have temperature variation, you could have those trucks not really able to handle the distances they need to in a market as big as Los Angeles. So if LA doesn't go all the way to San Diego, which is basically 120 miles away, but servicing that entire area between, let's say, northern Orange County and the northern part of Los Angeles, which takes us up towards Oxnard on one spot, and then probably, you get my drift, the Grapevine on the other. It won't be an exact fixed definition, but the greater Los Angeles area is huge. And so 200 miles ain't going to get it because get stuck in traffic, hit a mountain, temperature goes hot to cold, that 200 miles is eaten up like that. So the answer, I believe, for this whole thing is why no Tesla semis operating in Southern California is they've got that locked up and have made sure that Tesla can't enter. Now, I believe that Tesla can deliver some portable truck charging facilities to a couple of strategic locations there, and in a week or two, have an operating yard that can handle the Tesla Semi from that location. I don't know if you've noticed it, but there's also an interesting phenomenon where Tesla has shown the design for their charging facilities for the Tesla Semi. And the design for $100 million runs between Fremont, California and Austin, Texas, with locations for those charging facilities sort of passing through the northern half of Los Angeles and then continuing on through Phoenix all the way to Texas. Well, again, they're avoiding Southern Cal, and it looks like there's a force field because Los Angeles is such an important market, and there's so many trucks in the port of Los Angeles that need to be electric vehicles, that need to be Teslas, that there's no doubt in my mind that we should have those facilities going in. Part of the reason I did this show today is that when I studied what's going on and how long it took for the folks at Pepsi to put the facility together, it's a 3-year effort to put together all the charging facilities, the trucks, and all that stuff to go electric at their facilities. Now, I believe Tesla can do this in a month or two because they can just drop a mega pack, at a position that's close to where heavy power is available, and they could step that power down into the trucks without major deal. Obviously, electricity costs money. Tesla also has its largest installation concentration of megapacks in Southern California, so their relationship with the utility there is off the charts strong already. So it's not a big deal for them to sort of implement something there that makes sense. So, by the way, just a reminder, please take time to like and subscribe. We'd appreciate your support as well on Patreon. So this is a long-winded statement to say, I don't believe Southern California hates the Tesla Semi, as I suggested in my title. I believe competitors hate Tesla and don't want to get blown out. And so if they can slow down the process of customers in the greater Southern California market being exposed regularly to the success of the Tesla Semi, then it may prompt a longer cycle time to that Semi to be able to enter that market. So we shall see how this all plays out. But what I like about having done this show is the people who are handing out the money from the state to pay for the Tesla Semi and the Schneider Semis really need to take some time to look this over, because this whole setup of the Tesla Semi in places with the lowest pollution concentration in the state and not the highest pollution concentration in the state, I think makes absolutely no sense and needs to be changed immediately so that as the volume Tesla Semi truck is available, it can be implemented where it's needed the most, because it's the pollution in Southern California that prompted all of the efforts by the state of California to use resources to address how pollution is being dealt with. So let's get this going. Let's get some changes. Let's see some difference. Let's get some Tesla Semi setups started right away so that we can get scale facilities going ASAP to cut the whole pollution craziness in Southern California ASAP. Appreciate your guys taking time out on sort of a random topic here, but I think it'll make a huge difference there and result in other heavily polluted areas doing the same thing, and we get progress on this pollution piece rapidly. As you know, these Class 8 trucks, only 4% of the trucks on the road, but 30% of the pollution, so we need to have this addressed. Next, I'd like to finish up with our health tips that we usually cover. Just a quick reminder today, prior to lovemaking, no more than a salad to prevent, to allow blood flow to head to other extremities. And then we also wanted to encourage you to consider a 20-minute walk every morning as a way to get mental and physical health maintained. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, au revoir, lahitro, hoda, hepes, ni hao ma, gombawa, namaste. And in Jamaica, we say, no respect, walk woodman. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.